Later on, during the wheat harvest, Samson brought a small goat as a present to his wife, but her father wouldn't let him see her. He explained that he thought that he hated her and let her marry the best man from the wedding. But he offered him her younger sister that he said was prettier. Samson said that he wouldn't be held accountable for what he was going to do to the Philistines. Samson went out and caught 300 foxes, tied them together in pairs at the tails, and attached flaming torches to them. He then turned them loose into the fields. They burned all the grain and destroyed all the grapevines and the olive trees. The Philistines found out that Samson had done this because his father-in-law married off his wife. They took his father-in-law and wife and burned them to death. When he heard this, he vowed vengeance and killed many of them. Then he went to live in a cave at the rock of Etam. The Philistines went and raided the town of Lehi, looking for Samson. 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave to capture Samson. When asked why he was doing this to them, he replied he only paid them back for what they had done. The men said they were there to take him back to the Philistines, and Samson agreed to go as long as they didn't kill him. So they tied him up and took him back to Lehi. When they arrived, the Philistines cheered, but the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson, and he broke out of the ropes. He then picked up a jawbone of a donkey and killed 1,000 of them. Then he said, "With the jawbone of a donkey, I've made heaps on heaps. With the jawbone of a donkey, I've killed 1,000 men." He dropped the jawbone, and the place name was translated into Jawbone Hill. He became thirsty and asked the Lord for water, and God made water come out of the ground. And he named the place, translated, Spring of the One Who Cried Out. Samson was a judge for 20 years, while the Philistines ruled the land. One day Samson went to the Philistine city of Gaza to spend the night with a prostitute. Word soon spread that he was there, and the men of the city plotted to kill him the next morning. But Samson rose to leave at midnight, took hold of the gates of the city, and ripped them out of the ground. He then carried them up the hill and across from Hebron. Later, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah. The Philistine leaders wanted her to find out what made Samson strong and how to capture him. They offered her 1,100 pieces of silver, which equates to almost $8,000 now. So Delilah asked Samson 3 times to tell her what the secret to his strength was. First, he said that if he was tied with 7 new bowstrings that had not been dried, he would be weak as any man. Second, he said that if he was tied with new ropes that had never been used, he would be weak as any man. Third, he said if his 7 braids of hair were woven into the fabric of a loom and tightened with the loom shuttle, he would be weak as any man. Each time he told her a way to take his strength, she would use it on him and have the Philistines hide in the house. She would then scream that the Philistines were there, and Samson would break his bonds. Delilah told Samson that he was making fun of her by not telling her the truth. So after continuing to nag him, he told her the secret. Samson said that he had never cut his hair, and that he was dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. And if he was to cut his hair, he would lose his strength. She realized this time he was telling the truth, and told the leaders of the Philistines to bring her payment because they would capture him that night. As Samson lay asleep with his head in Delilah's lap, a man came in and cut Samson's hair. Then Delilah screamed that the Philistines were there, and Samson woke up, but the Lord had left him. So they captured him and blinded him. They took him to Gaza and put him in bronze chains and made him grind grain in the prison. Before long, his hair started to grow back.